My sister didn't invite me to her engagement party and accused me of having an affair with her fiancé. Then, our cousin revealed a dark secret that changed everything. I need to get this off my chest. I've been struggling with this situation for weeks now, and I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I'm 28, and I've been best friends with James, 29, since we were kids. Our friendship started when his family moved next door to us when I was 11. I remember the day they moved in. I was sitting on our front porch drawing when I saw this skinny kid with glasses carrying a box labeled Nintendo into the house. Being the nosy kid I went over to introduce myself, and we ended up spending the entire afternoon playing Super Mario. From that day forward, we were inseparable. We bonded over video games, anime, and our shared love of terrible B-movies. James became like another brother to me, maybe even closer than my actual brothers because we shared so many interests. Through every major life event, we were there for each other. When his parents had their nasty divorce during our sophomore year of high school, I was the one who would sneak over with snacks and new games to keep his mind off things. I spent countless nights just sitting with him while he cried or raged about his dad's new girlfriend or his mom's drinking. When my dad passed away from cancer 5 years ago, James practically lived at our house for a month, helping my mom with paperwork and just being there. He even took time off work to drive me to grief counseling sessions when I couldn't bring myself to go alone. My sister Fiona, 26, and I were never particularly close. We had different interests and friend groups growing up. She was into cheerleading, fashion, and was always the life of every party. I was more into gaming and art and spent most of my time either drawing or playing video games with James and our friends. We didn't fight or anything. We just existed in different worlds. The only time we really interacted was at family dinners or when she needed help with her computer. When Fiona started dating James 2 years ago, I was genuinely happy for both of them. They met at a mutual friend's barbecue, and I couldn't make it that day because I was sick with food poisoning. Fiona later told me that she had always thought James was cute, but never had the courage to talk to him when we were younger. Sure, it was a bit weird at first having my best friend date my sister, but I figured it would bring us all closer together. James asked me if I was okay with it before they made it official, which I thought was sweet of him. I told him that as long as they were happy, I was happy. Everything seemed perfect when James proposed to Fiona in May. He did during a family dinner at our mom's house, getting down on one knee and everything. Fiona was over the moon, and I helped her call all our relatives to share the good news. They planned a big wedding for next summer, and Fiona dove into planning mode immediately. She started a wedding Pinterest board and asked me to contribute ideas since she knew I was good at organizing things. The engagement party was planned for September, but strangely, I never received an invitation. At first, I thought maybe it had gotten lost in the mail or ended up in my spam folder. None of our mutual friends received invitations either, which I found odd because James and I share the same friend group. We've all been friends since high school, and there are about 10 of us who get together regularly for game nights and movie marathons. I figured maybe they were keeping it small due to budget constraints, though it seemed weird that James hadn't mentioned anything about it during our last game night. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it or seem like I was trying to make Fiona's engagement about me, so I didn't bring it up. Looking back, I should have just asked James directly. Maybe things would have turned out differently. It wasn't until after the party that everything blew up. James called me in tears, saying he had no idea none of us were invited. He thought Fiona had sent invitations to everyone. He was embarrassed and hurt when he showed up to the party and none of his close friends were there. It turns out Fiona had been secretly telling people not to mention the party to me or any of our mutual friends. She had given verbal invitations to her friends and family members, specifically asking them to keep it quiet. When James confronted her about it, she completely lost it. She accused him of being in love with me all these years, said she used to spy on us as teenagers when we hung out playing video games, and even suggested that my miscarriage last year might have been James's baby because he was so supportive during that time. The suggestion made me sick to my stomach. I lost my baby at 12 weeks, and it was devastating. James was supportive because that's who he is. He brought food, helped with housework, and let me cry on his shoulder. His girlfriend at the time, my sister, was also incredibly supportive, which makes her current accusations even more hurtful. My husband Mark, 30, and James get along great. They go fishing together and play in the same fantasy football league. Mark has never once felt threatened by my friendship with James because there has never been anything romantic between us. The thought of it makes both of us laugh because it would be like dating my brother. Fiona gave James an ultimatum: either cut me out of his life completely or end their engagement. She said she couldn't marry someone who was in love with her sister. James chose to end it. He told her he couldn't be with someone who didn't trust him and tried to control his friendships. Now my entire family is imploding. My mom keeps calling me a homewrecker and told Mark that James and I have been having an affair for years. She says she should have known something was going on because no man and woman can be just friends for that long. Mark thinks this whole situation is ridiculous and told my mom to stop watching so many soap operas. My older brothers, Tom, 32, and Mike, 30, are staying out of it, saying it's between Fiona and me, though I can tell they think Fiona is being unreasonable. I had to sit down and write this update because my hands are still shaking. Everything we thought we knew about this situation just got turned completely upside down. Yesterday evening, Emily called me crying. She left 5 voicemails begging to meet. Mark was firmly against it, saying after the cafe incident and the PI situation, he didn't trust her, but something in her voice sounded different, desperate and scared, rather than smug and accusatory. I agreed to meet her at a public park near my house. Mark insisted on coming with me. When we arrived, Emily was already there, sitting on a bench, her eyes red from crying. She looked more vulnerable than I had ever seen her before. I hesitated for a moment, but then walked over, with Mark right behind me. I didn't want to believe it. Emily started, her voice trembling. But I think I was wrong. I'm so sorry for everything. At first, I didn't know how to respond. The woman who had been causing so much pain for months now appeared to be genuinely regretful. She wiped her eyes and continued. I was just trying to protect Fiona, but I went too far. I manipulated everything. I hired the PI to gather information on you and James, but I didn't realize how much damage it would do until it was too late. I thought if I could find something to prove you were lying, Fiona would listen to me. I was in shock. I had no idea Emily was so involved in all of this. I could barely process what she was saying. I never thought about how this could destroy everything. I was blinded by my need to keep Fiona happy, and in doing so, I ruined our entire family, she said, her voice cracking. I don't know how to fix it, but I had to tell you the truth. I looked at Mark, who was standing a few feet away, still tense but watching carefully. I took a deep breath and turned back to Emily. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. After everything you've done, why come clean? Because Fiona is losing it, Emily whispered, her eyes darting nervously. She won't listen to me, and I'm afraid she's going to do something worse if I don't stop her. I never thought she would go this far. When I saw how far she had pushed you, I realized I made a huge mistake. I didn't know what to say. I was still processing everything she had said. It was like a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, disbelief. But at the same time, I could see that Emily was genuinely remorseful. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but I knew something had to change. I don't know what to do with this information, Emily, I said, shaking my head. This is too much. You need to talk to Fiona. You need to tell her everything. I will. I swear I will. Emily promised, her voice desperate. But please, I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you. I was just confused and scared. I looked over at Mark again, who nodded at me. I took a deep breath and said, okay, I'll think about this, but you need to make things right with Fiona and with the rest of the family. I will. I swear, Emily repeated, and then she stood up. Thank you for listening. I know it's a lot, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I had to tell you the truth. I watched as Emily walked away, her head down, and I could feel the weight of the situation settling in. We didn't talk much on the drive home. Mark was quiet, but I could tell he was processing everything. When we got home, we sat down together, and I told him everything that had happened at the park. I don't know how to feel about this, I said finally. It's like everything is falling apart, and now I have to pick up the pieces. I don't know how to fix things with Fiona after all of this. Mark put his arm around me. We'll figure it out. It's not going to be easy, but you'll get through this. You always do. I just nodded. I wasn't sure what the future would hold, but I knew I needed to try and rebuild my relationships. Somehow, it's been a couple of days since Emily came clean, and the weight of everything still hasn't sunk in fully. Mark and I have been talking a lot about what to do next. The situation is still so fragile, and I can feel how deeply this has affected both of us. It's hard to know where to even begin when it feels like the entire foundation of our family has been shaken. Fiona hasn't reached out to me yet. I know she's been busy, but the silence is deafening. After everything that's happened, part of me wonders if she's even capable of facing the truth. I've been trying to prepare myself for whatever might come, but it's hard to predict anything with her. She's unpredictable. One moment, she's full of rage. The next, she's apologizing for things that don't even make sense. Mark and I agreed that we'd give Emily a chance to try to fix things with Fiona on her own. She promised she'd tell her everything, but I honestly don't know how that conversation will go. I hope that Emily has the strength to make Fiona understand what she did was wrong and that the damage she caused can't just be swept under the rug. In the meantime, I've been focusing on myself, taking small steps to heal from everything that's happened. I've been getting back into my routine, doing things that make me feel centered again. I started writing again, which always helps clear my head. It's funny how something as simple as putting words on a page can be so therapeutic. I'm trying to refocus on the things I can control instead of the things I can't. I also had a long conversation with James. After all the drama with Emily, I felt like I needed to check in with him and make sure we were still on the same page. I'm still trying to process everything with him, but I can't deny that his support means the world to me. He's been patient, understanding, and kind through all of this, and I know I wouldn't have made it this far without him. When we sat down to talk, I finally told him how I was feeling. The weight of everything has been a lot to carry, but even though I've been through so much, I also know that I'm stronger now. James told me something that really resonated with me. Sometimes, the most painful things lead to the greatest growth. It sounds cliche, but in that moment, it felt true. If I could get through this, I could face anything. I'm sitting here now, trying to gather my thoughts after yet another chaotic day. Emily called me this morning, her voice frantic. She said Fiona had finally reached out to her, and things hadn't gone the way she'd hoped. Apparently, when Emily tried to confess everything to Fiona, it didn't go well at all. Fiona was furious, accusing Emily of betraying her and abandoning her when she needed her most. From what Emily told me, Fiona couldn't see past her own anger to understand what Emily was trying to do. I'm not sure what to think. I've always known Fiona had a temper, but this seems like it's gone beyond anything I could have imagined. I'm worried that there's no going back from this. If Fiona can't forgive Emily, where does that leave us? Where does that leave our family? I spent most of the day thinking about how to handle this. I can't just let everything fall apart, but I don't know how to fix things when it feels like the pieces are too broken. I've been considering whether I should step in and try to mediate between them, but I'm scared it might make things worse. What if I end up getting caught in the middle again? I talked to Mark about it. He's still not sure if we should get involved. He's worried that if we try to fix everything, it'll only make us more of a target for Fiona's anger. I get where he's coming from. Fiona has always had a way of twisting things around, and I'm afraid she'll do the same now. But at the same time, I don't want to give up on my family. I don't want to lose Emily, even after everything she's done. It's just so complicated. I'm not sure what the next step is, but I know I can't just sit here and wait for things to implode. I have to make a decision, even if I don't know what the right choice is yet. All I can do is take it one day at a time and hope that somehow this will all make sense in the end.